I woke that Sunday evening to words I'll never forget. My mother called with a single objective, delivered with surgical precision. I was no longer welcome at Thanksgiving. The reason? My sister Vivian's boyfriend, a CEO, naturally, would be meeting the family, and my blue-collar teaching salary might embarrass them in front of his expensive world. 5 days later, they'd learn the truth that would change everything. My name is Marcus, and I'm about to tell you a story about a family that made a critical miscalculation. I remember the exact moment my mother's voice cut through my apartment. I was grading essays on labor reform, teaching teenagers about workers' rights and dignity, when she explained with controlled warmth that my presence would send the wrong message. Not because I'd done anything wrong, not because I was unreasonable or difficult, simply because my career, a decade spent educating young minds, a master's degree earned through night school and sacrifice, fell short of their social calculus. The words landed like a blade. Vivian had found her prince in Derek Hartwell, a CEO managing $400 million, and suddenly my entire existence was a liability. My mother kept talking, wrapping her rejection in apologies and explanations, but I understood the real message. You don't belong in this family's future, not unless you change who you are. I'd heard Derek's name 400 times in 3 months. My mother spoke about him the way she'd once spoken about rare jewels, something precious, something to be protected and displayed. When I gently asked if I could slip in after dinner just to meet him, she shut it down immediately. Vivian was crystal clear. I wasn't wanted. I thought about the email she'd sent months before, asking me to contribute $3,000 toward Vivian's engagement party. Since you don't have a family of your own to support, I transferred the money without hesitation. Now I understood what that money represented, payment for the privilege of invisibility. That night, I sat in my small apartment, and I didn't cry. Something else happened instead. A hollow space opened inside me where my patience had lived, and in that emptiness, something new began to take root. But they didn't know what I was holding. They couldn't have known. For 2 years, I'd carried a secret so heavy it had become part of my bones. My grandmother Eleanor had named me trustee of a $15 million trust. Vivian was the sole beneficiary, all of it, every penny, flowing toward her dream wedding and the life she believed she deserved. The catch? I controlled everything. Every dollar, every distribution, every condition attached to that money was mine to decide. I'd kept this secret deliberately, not out of malice, but because I didn't want money to poison what family should be. My grandmother had been clear about her intentions in our final conversations. Vivian isn't bad, she'd said. She's just never had to learn the value of anything. I want you to teach her. That was the design, the invisible architecture of Eleanor's will. As I sat in darkness that Thanksgiving night, reading Vivian's text, Derek says our family is so put together, something shifted inside me. Not rage. My grandmother would never have wanted that, but clarity, accountability, the right to exist without apologizing. On Friday morning, I called Margaret Caldwell, my grandmother's attorney. I'd been avoiding this conversation for months, but now I was ready. The fiscal deadline was Monday, and I was finally ready to understand what I was actually holding. Margaret explained the mechanism. Vivian had been given everything too easily her entire life, my grandmother had said. She'd never learned resilience or gratitude. The money was meant to teach her, and I was supposed to be the teacher. Eleanor had been explicit about this in our final conversations. Thora has the spine to say no and the heart to say it kindly. That was me in her eyes, the one capable of drawing boundaries with compassion. The trust was worth $15 million. I controlled every penny. I had options, $200,000 annually in standard distribution, or I could defer, I could add conditions, I could require financial literacy courses, employment verification, education requirements. If Vivian tried to challenge me in court, she'd lose. My grandmother had made sure of that. The legal framework was airtight. But what struck me most was the personal bequest. $50,000 Eleanor had left me separately, unrestricted. I'd been using it quietly for 2 years, donating to the Beacon Hill Winter Charity Gala, establishing myself as a founding donor without fanfare. Tomorrow night, I'd be attending that same gala, and so would my family. I left Margaret's office with the badge in my purse, heavy with possibilities. For the first time in a decade, I didn't feel like I was asking permission to exist. They showed up at my apartment that Friday afternoon without warning. My mother, Vivian, and my father. Derek's financial advisor had run a background check on the family. Standard procedure at his level. Suddenly, they knew everything. The trust. My role as trustee. The fact that I controlled Vivian's entire future. My mother tried diplomacy first. She pulled out paperwork transferring the trustee role to her. It's the sensible arrangement, she said, but I said no. Simple. Absolute. My grandmother chose me. I'm not signing anything. Vivian's mask dropped faster. I teach teenagers about history, she said. I ride the bus. You work in marketing because your boyfriend hired you. The words landed precisely. She flinched hard enough that everyone saw it. My mother's voice hardened. You're being selfish. This money is for Vivian's security, her wedding. Don't stand in the way of your sister's happiness. But I wasn't standing in the way. I was doing exactly what Eleanor asked, making sure the money was used responsibly. Then Vivian said it, the thing that exposed everything. You'd have embarrassed us at Thanksgiving if we'd let you come. You embarrass us with that department store dress. You embarrass us by pretending you're capable of managing anything more complicated than a lesson plan. And I realized something in that moment. I'd absorbed these comments for 32 years, the constant dismissals, the dress insults, the implication that my existence was an inconvenience. My grandmother's voice echoed, "You're not powerless. You never were. You need to leave," I said, and then I told them I'd be at the gala tomorrow night. If they wanted to discuss the trust, we'd do it there. Vivian laughed. "You weren't invited." Actually, I was. I pulled out the badge. Gold letters on cream cardstock, founding donor. I've contributed $50,000 over the past 2 years. My mother's composure fractured completely. That's not possible. Yes, it is. Eleanor left me a personal bequest, separate from the trust. For 32 years, I'd been the invisible daughter. In 30 seconds, I'd upended everything they believed about me. My mother recovered, her voice strained. "We'll discuss this tomorrow at the gala." "Fine," I said. I opened the door for them to leave. As they walked out, my father hesitated. But I shook my head. "Not now, Dad." I closed the door and listened to their footsteps fade. My hands were shaking, but not with fear. Tomorrow night, I would walk into that ballroom wearing a badge they couldn't buy. They would finally see me as I actually was. Not the disappointment they'd invented, but the woman my grandmother had believed in all along. The gala occupied the grand ballroom of the Harrington Plaza. 500 guests in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, crystal chandeliers, conversations about portfolios and property values. I arrived at 7:15, wearing a $200 black dress and a badge that outshone every piece of jewelry in the room. The VIP entrance was separate. A staff member checked my credentials and smiled warmly. "Ms. Mitchell, the board asked me to express their gratitude for your continued support." I accepted champagne and moved through the crowd. For 2 years, I'd attended quietly, arriving late, leaving early. Tonight, I was done hiding. I spotted them at 7:32, my mother in emerald green, my father uncomfortable in a rental tuxedo, Vivian radiant in silver beside Derek Hartwell, who carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who'd never worried about money in his life. They were working the room, performing the social choreography of ambitious people at important events. I stayed near the stage, discussing education funding initiatives with a foundation board member. It felt surreal, watching my family pretend I didn't exist in a room where my name carried more weight than all of theirs combined. At 7:48, Derek noticed my badge. I watched the moment it happened. He was scanning the room, identifying major donors the way successful businessmen do, and then he saw it. Thora Mitchell, founding donor. He turned to ask Vivian about me. Derek noticed my badge first, the gold letters. His eyes registered something clicking into place. He extended his hand with the practiced courtesy of someone trained to acknowledge major donors. "I'm Derek Hartwell. I don't believe we've met. Thank you for your support," he said. "Your contributions have been extraordinary." Up close, he was handsome in an unremarkable way. Good bones, expensive grooming, the polish of generational wealth. But his eyes were intelligent, and his grip was genuine. "I'm Thora Mitchell." The name landed hard. I watched recognition ripple across his face, the widening of his eyes, the quick glance at Vivian, the recalculation happening in real time. "Mitchell," he repeated. "As in Vivian's older sister?" "Yes." He turned to Vivian, whose face had gone from pale to completely gray. "You told me you didn't know the woman with the founding donor badge. I didn't recognize her." "The lighting." Vivian's voice caught. "The lighting." Derek's tone dropped several degrees. "Your sister has donated over $100,000 to a foundation I've supported for years, and you didn't recognize her." Other guests were noticing now. The body language was unmistakable. Tension, conflict, the irresistible magnetism of wealthy people behaving badly in public. My mother appeared instantly, her crisis radar activated. "Derek, darling, what a wonderful event. Have you seen the silent auction?" "Mrs. Mitchell," his voice remained pleasant, but something had shifted. "I was just thanking your daughter for her charitable contributions. Over $100,000. Apparently she's been a founding donor for 2 years. My mother's smile froze. "My daughter, Thora? She's contributed $50,000 annually," Derek said. "That's more than many of your VIP ticket holders combined." "I didn't realize." My mother trailed off, her composure fracturing again. "Didn't realize your daughter was a major philanthropist?" "Interesting." Derek turned to me. "Your name wasn't mentioned earlier when I was told about the Mitchell family attending. I'm not often mentioned." The words came out before I could soften them, but they were true, and I was tired of softening truths. Vivian tightened her grip on his arm. "This is family business. It's complicated." What's complicated about it? His voice sharpened. Your sister is standing here with credentials suggesting she's taken this foundation seriously for years. And 15 minutes ago, you told me you'd never seen her. Derek, please. What else haven't you told me? Margaret Caldwell materialized with perfect timing, navy gown, silver hair swept into an elegant twist. Thora, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. She nodded to Derek with professional familiarity. Always a pleasure, Mr. Hartwell. Then to me, I hope we're still on for Monday. There's quite a bit to discuss regarding your annual review. Derek's attention sharpened. Review? Ms. Mitchell is one of my most valued clients, Margaret said smoothly. She manages a substantial trust with remarkable diligence. Your mother made an excellent choice, Mrs. Mitchell. The Eleanor Mitchell Trust is in very capable hands. The temperature around our group dropped several degrees. Thora manages the trust. Derek looked from me to Vivian. The trust you told me was being handled by the estate. Vivian searched for words, for explanations, for some way to spin this that wouldn't make her look like a liar or a fool. She found none. I think you two have things to discuss, I said quietly, if you'll excuse me. I turned to walk away, but Derek's voice stopped me. Thora. When I looked back, his social mask had cracked, revealing something raw beneath. I apologize for whatever role I played in this, and for whatever's been happening with your family. You didn't know? No, but I'm starting to. He looked at Vivian with the particular disappointment of someone realizing the person beside them isn't who they pretended to be. I left them there surrounded by 500 witnesses and walked toward the bar. My hands were steady, my heart was calm. For the first time in my life, I'd stood in a room full of people my family admired, and they'd been forced to see me clearly. The tables hadn't just turned, they'd been flipped entirely. I found Margaret near the silent auction tables, examining a watercolor of Boston with professional interest. That was more dramatic than I anticipated, she said without looking up. I didn't plan it. The best confrontations rarely are. She turned to face me. I have distribution documents in my office. After tonight, do you have clearer intentions? I want to defer distribution for 12 months. On grounds of beneficiary readiness, I want Vivian to complete a certified financial management course before receiving any funds. And I'm not transferring the trustee role to anyone. Margaret nodded, unsurprised. I'll have documentation ready for Monday. The deferral becomes effective immediately. Eleanor would be proud, she said. Not because you're punishing your sister, but because you're finally using the authority she gave you. Vivian approached next, alone now, her silver gown somehow diminished by the fury in her eyes. I hope you're satisfied. Derek wants to reconsider everything. The engagement, the wedding, everything, because of you. No, I said calmly, because of choices you made, lies you told. I just happened to be standing in the room when the truth became visible. You ruined my life. I corrected a misunderstanding. If your life was built on that misunderstanding, that's not my responsibility. You've always been jealous. Always. Because I'm successful and you're just a teacher. I stepped closer. I'm not doing this to hurt you. Grandma Eleanor loved you. She wanted you to have this money, but she also wanted you to become someone who deserved it. I deserve it now, then prove it. Take the course. Demonstrate you can handle responsibility. In 12 months, we can revisit the distribution. You're setting conditions, making me jump through hoops for my own inheritance. I'm doing what our grandmother asked me to do. You've never had to earn anything in your life, Vivian. Maybe it's time you learned how. I hate you, she said, the words raw and almost childlike. I actually hate you. I know. My job isn't to make you love me. My job is to honor Grandma's wishes, and I'm going to do that whether you hate me or not. Vivian stared at me, then turned and walked away. My mother found me next, predictably. Her diplomatic mask was back, but cracks showed around the edges. You've gone too far, humiliating your sister in public, interfering with her relationship. That wasn't family, I said. What about calling to ban someone from Thanksgiving because their job might embarrass the family? Is that what family does? That was different. How? Patricia had no answer. Mom, I didn't come here tonight to start a war. I came because I was invited. I was recognized because I've been contributing to this foundation for years, honoring Grandma's values while you dismissed me as an embarrassment. Everything that happened tonight happened because you and Vivian chose to hide truths and tell lies. I'm keeping the trustee role. Vivian will meet certain conditions before accessing the funds. And I'm done pretending that being treated as invisible is acceptable. What do you want from us? Respect. Not because of money or status, but because I'm your daughter. I've spent 32 years trying to earn a seat at your table. I'm done. Either I belong in this family as I am, or I don't belong at all. My father appeared at the edge of our conversation, hovering as he always did. Patricia began to speak, but he cut her off. Tell her she's right, he said, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in years. She's right. We've treated Thora terribly. Eleanor saw it. I saw it. and I never did anything. He met my eyes. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I should have said that a long time ago. I didn't trust my voice, so I just nodded. My mother looked between us, calculating, reassessing. The ground had shifted beneath her feet. The family dynamics she'd controlled for decades were suddenly unstable. We should go, she said finally, taking my father's arm. This isn't the place. No, I agreed, it isn't. I left the gala at 10:47, stepping into the cold November night with my badge still pinned to my dress. The doorman called me Ms. Mitchell with genuine warmth and hailed a cab. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. Within 48 hours, Derek told Vivian he needed space. By Monday afternoon, their engagement was on indefinite hold, not officially canceled, but suspended in limbo that spoke volumes. Word spread through their social circle like wildfire. The golden couple of Hartwell Capital hit turbulence. Vivian's position at the company became untenable by Tuesday. She wasn't fired. Derek was too polished for that, but she was encouraged to explore opportunities that better aligned with her long-term goals. Translation: her presence had become awkward, and everyone knew it. She cleaned out her desk on December 3rd. My mother received phone calls from her social circle throughout the week. The Hendersons, the Castellanos, the Morrison Whites from her charity board, all expressing concern, all really mining for details about the Thanksgiving scandal that had become the talk of the Winter Gala. The story spread through their world with the efficiency of gossip among the wealthy. Rachel reported it over coffee on Wednesday. I heard 3 different versions at my dentist's office yesterday. Something about a sister being banned from Thanksgiving and then showing up as a major donor. The details vary, but the punchline is always the same. What punchline? That the embarrassing daughter turned out to be more impressive than anyone knew. On Monday morning, December 2nd, I signed the deferral documents in Margaret's office at 9:15. The language was precise. Distributions from the Eleanor Mitchell Irrevocable Trust to Vivian would be suspended for 12 months, pending completion of a certified personal financial management program. The course requirement wasn't punitive. It was exactly what trustees routinely imposed on young beneficiaries who hadn't demonstrated financial readiness. Your grandmother would have handled this exactly the same way, Margaret said. She wasn't interested in punishment. She was interested in growth. That afternoon, an email arrived from my father, 3 pages long, the most Harold Mitchell had written to anyone in years. He apologized for 32 years of silence. He acknowledged that my mother's treatment had been unfair and that his failure to intervene made him complicit. He didn't make excuses or ask for forgiveness. He simply said he wanted to do better if I'd let him try. I read it 3 times and saved it in a folder labeled Family. Vivian texted on December 5th, "Fine, I'll take your stupid course, but don't expect me to thank you." I replied, "I don't expect thanks. I expect results. Good luck with the program." Margaret confirmed her enrollment 2 days later. Introduction to Personal Financial Management, starting January 15th at a local community college. 12 weeks. The first step toward proving she could handle the inheritance. The Boston Society blog ran a piece on December 8th. Anonymous, but clearly sourced from gala attendees. The story was mostly accurate, painting my family in unflattering terms while presenting me as a quiet philanthropist who emerged from the shadows with impeccable timing. I didn't love being public, but I couldn't deny the satisfaction of seeing the truth acknowledged in print. On December 10th, the Foundation's board sent an invitation. They wanted me to join their advisory council. Your perspective as an educator and your dedication to charitable giving would be invaluable. I read it sitting at my kitchen table after a day of teaching students about the progressive era and the long arc of social change. Maybe that arc was finally bending in my direction. December 21st, 4 days before Christmas, 3 weeks since the gala. My apartment was warm with cooking smells, rosemary chicken, roasted vegetables, a pie cooling on the counter. I'd pushed my small table against the wall to make room for 6 chairs, Rachel, 2 colleagues from school, Maria from Rachel's family, and my father, just my father. My mother had called twice asking to be included. I declined both times. "Not yet, Mom. I need more time." She hadn't argued. That more than anything told me how much the last 3 weeks had shifted our family's dynamics. Harold arrived at 5:30 carrying wine and nervous hope. He'd never visited my apartment before. In 10 years, no one from my family had. "It's nice," he said, looking around. "It's you." The dinner was imperfect and wonderful. Rachel told embarrassing stories from our first year teaching. Maria dominated a debate about pie crust. My colleagues complained about standardized testing. My father listened more than he spoke, but when he did contribute, his comments were thoughtful and kind. At one point, he caught my eye across the table and mouthed, "Thank you." Vivian texted at 7:45. "Merry Christmas, Thora. I'm trying." I showed my father the message. He read it twice, then handed my phone back. "She means it. The course is harder than she expected, but she's doing the work." She asked if you'd ever forgive her. "Forgiveness isn't the issue," I said. "Trust is, and trust takes time." He nodded. That's fair, I texted back. I see that. Merry Christmas. 3 words, not absolution, not warmth, but acknowledgement. A door left slightly open. After everyone left, I sat alone in the quiet of my apartment, looking at Christmas lights strung across my window. The past month had taught me things I should have learned years ago, that boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection, that saying no to unfair treatment isn't selfish, it's necessary, that you can love people and still refuse to accept harm from them. My grandmother had understood this. She'd given me the tools to protect myself, knowing I'd need time to find the courage to use them. "You're not powerless," she'd said. "You never were." I believed her now. I decided to accept the Foundation's invitation, not for status or recognition, but because it felt right. Continuing my grandmother's legacy of thoughtful giving, being part of something larger than my family's dysfunction. I'd keep teaching, not because I couldn't do anything else, but because it mattered. Because every time a student wrote an excellent essay or asked a sharp question, I was reminded why I'd chosen this path. My blue-collar job had never been the problem. The problem was people who measured worth in dollars instead of impact. I sent an email to Derek Hartwell's assistant. I'd be willing to meet for coffee somewhere neutral. He deserved to understand what he was considering marrying into. Whatever he decided, it would be based on truth. That night, I looked at the Thanksgiving photo again. 4 smiling faces and no empty chair. I didn't delete it. I didn't need to. That photo wasn't my story anymore. It was evidence of a version of my family that no longer existed because I'd stopped pretending it was acceptable. Do I have regrets? No, none. I only wish I'd done it sooner, and that's my story.